I feel if you try to say that this is okay and God is good with it and this is just me, that at the end of the day what you're saying is I don't need the blood to cover this issue.
The energy, yeah.
Do you feel it?
Hey, what's up? This is V Rose from Clear Sight Music. I'm in the field with the Trackstars.
Yeah, back in the field with the Trackstarz, Ryan Righteous, SEANTANA, DJ Jeremiah. Okay. So we, make sure you follow us on Periscope. We got real conversations in the break. One thing that came up, it's something that we were going to do eventually, but it's something I noticed, and forgive me, it's mostly with guys. Since I was younger, I've seen this where we would have people that know how to talk a good game, so they'll say the right things around the young ladies or in church settings or whatever. But then when they get around their boys, it shifts. It's like you are intentionally two different people. You're a certain way around people that you feel you got to impress, and then you're a certain way around other people you feel you got to impress.
Right.
And it's expected that, especially when it comes to this Christian thing, that you're not really living it for real. So it's double-minded, like you two different people, right? How much of that is going on in this Christian industry? How many people are legit all the way through and through about this God thing, or are they pretending?
It's interesting you bring that up because I was actually going to comment on what I think is happening. I think what's happening is that, and then, you've heard me say this on shows before. I think what's happening is that we have a lot of people that are trying to get a fast leap to fame, and they can do that through CHH. You know what I mean? Like they can come in, they can get a fan base, and they can try to move on if they want to. But I think a lot of people are saying, okay, you know what? I got to deal with 5 million artists that are out there in mainstream. And I only got to deal with 5,000 in Christian hip hop. So I might as well take my music to Christian hip hop and try to raise up the ranks that way because it'll be a faster leap to fame. And then we see them, I'm not saying any names, but then it looks like we see them saying, okay, I'm leaving CHH and now I'm going over to, mainstream because I have a problem with the message, or I have a problem with the genre, I have a problem with some of the artists, I have a problem with the promoters and the providers. It's like, are they doing that? And I think they are.
Well, part of what I noticed when I was growing up is that people don't really have a good example of what it means to be a man. And I'm sorry this is male focused, but I don't, I'm not a girl. So men feel like you are expected to be playing around with this stuff. Like, I feel like there's a lot of guys who feel like you have to be the church guy at church. You got to be the gentleman in front of the ladies, and then you got to be the hood and with your folks. And why do we feel like that is acceptable, especially when it comes to morality in Christianity?
If you don't mind me interjecting, man, I feel like real talk. It's just bad teaching, bro. 100%, man. We just don't get the gospel, man. We're so busy teaching. I can speak, on behalf of coming up in black church. Like, and right now, man, I go to an all-white church, bro. I probably won't never step foot into a black church again. And I'm just being real with y'all. Like, real talk, like, they teach the gospel. And once you hear the gospel, it attacks your heart. And it changes your whole way of living. But when you taught tradition all your life, when you taught this is how you're supposed to act at church, then your heart has never changed. Only thing you know is when I'm here, this how I'm supposed to be. It's bad teaching, bro. And we give these folks a list of rules. And so we'll try to fit these list of rules when we in this group of people. But their heart is never changed because they never received the gospel. They receive tradition. They receive these rules. They receive the pastors, the man of God, and we never told them about the gospel, which attacks the hearts, and it changed their way of being. So when people do that, it's because they, honestly, bro, they never received the gospel. They receive bad teaching.
Right. But there's two different people. There's people who they just haven't really been saved, or they're still young in the faith. But then there's people who know better. And they intentionally act one way in front of the Christians and then intentionally act another way at home in their bedroom.
They just laying them.
So what is with the faking? Like, why do people feel like, why don't you just go do that? Like, why are you pretending to be this?
because the church.
I guess just that saved the face. You know what I mean? So it's like I can't be one way with my friends, because if I go to my friends and I'm acting the way I act at church, they're gonna think I'm lame, or you know what I'm saying. So I gotta be one way or another. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're not. I don't think we're asking you to be perfect or anything like that. I think we're just saying, like, could you be yourself? Like, if you talking about sports and stuff like that, you ain't gonna say, yo, that touchdown was a blessing. You know what I mean? You gonna be yourself. You know what I mean?
Go back again to bad teaching, because some of it don't have nothing to do with sin.
Yeah.
But some of it just have to do with, like what you're saying, like when they're around this group of people, I talk like this. But this not acceptable in the church, because the way they teach us is this ain't right. Mm-hmm. So they don't dress like this when they come to church. They try to cut their slang off when they come to the church. I can't wear the J's. I got to do this when I come to the church. But it all goes back, I feel like, it all boils back down to bad teaching. So now when I'm at the church, I can't talk about this, but like, boy, you seen that dunk? Boy, that joint was fat. No, you can't say that, because now they looking at you. Oh, he ain't saved. He can't have the snapback on. Cause hey, I'm telling you, I'm a minister of the gospel. And when I go places, they try to get me to take my hat off. They don't even know I'm the performer for the night. Hey, can you take your hat off? But why? But why? This building is nothing. We're the church. This building is nothing. God say, I don't dwell in building made by man's hands. This building means nothing. It all boils down to bad teaching, bro. And so now folks have to try to make themselves fit. Be like, this is who I am outside, but when I come to the church, they say, no, this ain't right, this ain't right. And I love God, but now I gotta play a role to make them realize that I love God. Bad teaching, dog. The bottom answer is, hey, it's bad teaching, man.
That's real. I mean, so part of it is that. Part of it is the tradition of church. And then there's people that are kind of like the I don't know what to call it. Like they're like the upper echelon Christians that kind of set the rules for how everybody else should act. Let's just stick to Christian hip hop. So there's the upper echelon Christian artists that set the rules for how you're supposed to behave as a Christian artist, right? So if you don't fit that, you don't get this. This was a bigger problem like earlier in 2000s with cross movement, but there was a certain style you had to fit in order to be accepted. But then there's that's the style thing. But then there's people who are acting the way, but it's not just that they want to wear the snapback and they don't, because it's they having sex with old girl over there, but they getting on stage yelling at people who have sex with old girl. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What's with the disconnect between your life and what you say? What's the point of saying it if you're gonna do something different? Do you feel convicted by it? So you yell it so nobody will look at you? Like, what's the problem there?
Well, I think you hit on it earlier, where there aren't a lot of great examples, or I should say consistent examples, because you're taught the word, but you don't often see the word lived out. Like lived out, not from a platform, but lived out in day-to-day life. Like, you don't see godly men being great husbands to their wives and great fathers to their children, because those circumstances may not exist in real life. You know what I mean? Or they just may not be exposed to it, so they automatically feel like they have to revert back to what they know. You know what I mean?
Here's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that there's most people, that believe that even us in this room talking are just playing a game. That even us, when we go home, we on the internet looking at porn, we cheating on our wives, we doing this and that. Even us in the room. It's like mentally, like, I think people believe, oh, I know this game. You a Christian show, so this is what you say here. But then when you go home, you do something different. I understand what's going on here. And they don't believe that anybody actually does this for real. Did anybody feel that?
I honestly... Man, bruh, I ain't trying to plug my album here, but transparency, acceptance.
That's all.
No, but real talk, my album, that's the whole heart of my album was birthed through this whole conversation we having right now. Wow. And it was like, listen, we get up here, I feel like Paul was one of the most transparent people in the Bible.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? He talk about, you know what I'm saying? Man, I had a thorn in the flesh, man. I went to God 3 times. Listen, God said, hey, my grace sufficient to it for it all. But then he even goes on to talk about, like, man, when I go to do right, evil was always present. Man, the things I don't want to do, that's what I do. And so, like, we'll get in the pulpit or we'll get on these songs and we'll present ourselves as like, I got this thing together, but down pat. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And once you do that, it's like why you see the preachers that's preaching on homosexuality the most and bashing it the most is the ones who get caught up in it. Man, you opening the door for yourself, bro. Instead of going up there and being 100 and saying, hey, listen, man. Hey, I'm up here preaching only because God gave me a calling. He gave me a job. Hey, listen, I still got struggles. I still got issues. And we all working on them as we go. You don't need Jesus. We need Jesus. Mm-hmm. And when you start being transparent like that, listen, you give the enemy less room. You give him less room to come at you. You give him less room to, you know what I'm saying, to really go at you like that. When you just let it be known, like, bro, I'm nobody. I got issues too. Hey, man. Hey, it's some girl walking around in some leggings and some heels that make me got to call on Jesus. You know what I'm saying? And look the other way. But when you act like, oh no, that doesn't even bother me. Mm-hmm. Then get what? Now you the one, right after you got off stage in the hotel room, like, God dang it, I messed up again. Yeah. And then you get found out.
Well, there's two things. There's the people who are pretending like everything is good when it's not. But then there's the people who are pretending that everything is good and they are actually actively chasing after what's not good. You see what I'm saying? There's a difference between the struggle, like everybody's struggling, right? So everybody's like, man, you know, so-and-so over there looks good, or I would love to take that deal, but it's not a good deal for me. Everybody has a struggle, but the mentality I'm talking about is different. If you are trying to chase after God, then we have no problem, as long as you're honest about that when you're on stage. But if you are trying not to, I mean, I'm talking about people who are actively trying not to.
But I think a thing too is this, man. Christianity in America is always polished. Like, when I mean polished, meaning like somebody is presented in front of you that's suited up, they look good, you don't think they have problems. And I think a majority of times, like, if you looking at like different people that preach the gospel, televangelists and stuff, it always looked good. It never looked like nothing. So when somebody does come out and say, hey man, I was struggling with this, and people looking at them like, what are you talking about? That you shouldn't have told. Like, I remember just thinking about we saw something about Kirk Franklin when he came out, and people was like, Kirk Franklin, some people hated that he did it because you don't tell the world your business. Like, you don't tell you tell that among us, but you don't tell them your business. Right. So I think that's another thing. Is just like, if you're saying being transparent is key, but some people are not ready for transparency.
They don't want you to be transparent.
They want us to talk about it here, but turn on Periscope. You know what I'm saying?
The reason they not down with us being transparent is because of bad teaching. Once again, it goes back to that. But like what you were saying about you know, I'm sorry for talking so much.
No,
y'all hitting on great topics that, you know, man, my ministry in me is like real strong. But one of the things that I talk about, let's just say homosexuality. I had a friend growing, we got saved. You know, he was saved. That was an issue that he had before he got saved. But guess what? After salvation, he was still, you know, he would come to me, he'll come to SO, and he'll tell us, like, hey, bro, like, man, this dude at my job, I used to mess with the whoop. Like, bro, I don't want to mess up, man. Pray with me. Whoop. Hey, that dude was just as saved as I was. Yeah. Hey, but it's a battle. Sometimes he won the battle. Sometimes he able to go the right way. But like, no, bro, I'm saved. Leave me alone. Hey, sometimes he messed up. And it's no different from any other sin. Yeah. But like he was saying, like, you know, there's times where people just like, man, I was a preacher at this one church. I had a minister come in. He's a bishop or apostle. And he got out the stage. And I had to take him to his hotel room. As soon as I got in the car, he was just like, hey, bro, take me to the liquor store, bro. Stop me by the gas station. Man, I need to get some blacks. And he was like, hey, and you pretty. I know you know where all the ladies at, bro. What's up? Woo. And no lie, at that time, I was still dealing with some of these things. Yeah. But I would never, that thing just, like just flaunt. Like I felt
that's
bad
what I'm talking
it.
about.
Yeah. So the people
That's
who
what I'm
have
talking
that heart where they just like, well, this is just me, and that's why I think homosexuality is such a strong sin, because it's the only one that we made okay, where we say God is cool with this, let's do it. And once that just turns out to be a heart problem, man, where you just not really in this. When you struggling and you working on it, you know you good. But when you just accept it and say, hey man, God is cool with this and this and that, we don't got nobody sitting up there preaching saying, hey, sleep with as many women as you want to.
You highlight exactly what I'm trying to say. There's a difference between somebody coming to you and be like, hey man, pray for me, I'm struggling with this, I'm really trying my best to work through this, and I gotta go on stage and rap these songs, but I am struggling with this. That's different than you get off stage and you like, yo, let's go get these girls.
Yeah,
that's a different person. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm seeing too much of that. Like the expectation is I may not even know you, I just got to Atlanta, and I'm assuming you like me. You do the songs and then you come off and be like, yo, let's get some, where are we at? You assuming we doing I feel like there's a lot of people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There's a lot of people in that world.
But I believe that's the evil. You know what I mean? I believe that's just a straight up evil. That's a straight up wrong. Right? And there's people who are playing, you know what I mean? There's people who are absolutely playing. There's people who are like struggling, right? But then there's some people, man, who are just plain like wrong. There's just a sin that's just dominating their life, right?
That's what I'm trying to
But they have
highlight.
so much influence, and they've been, doing so well for so long. They really don't. Yeah, they don't want to lose that power.
Yeah.
Like, think about how many people, like, for instance, there's some people who are really like killing it. You know what I mean? They've been doing well for a long time. If they really want to, like, if they really ever get exposed, right, they will lose so much. They're talking not just money. Like, they will lose money, they will lose people, they will lose power, they lose influence, and you don't want to give that stuff up, right? But when that evil gets shown, man, it's destroying not only just them, but it destroys. I believe it like really like taints Christianity altogether.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm trying to weed out. Like, if people are struggling, be honest about your struggle and do all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to weed out the people who are intentionally know that they wrong. And they I don't even know if they know. I think they think we're all playing too.
Why don't we expose them?
What do you want to say?
They're wrong.
I will explain. Nah.
They're wrong. And the way I feel, that's when I feel like your salvation might be in question, because at the end of the day, I feel if you try to say that this is okay and God is good with it and this is just me, that at the end of the day, what you're saying is, I don't need the blood to cover this issue. And when you don't need the blood to cover that issue, then guess what? When you stand for the gate, homeboy, you might be going the other way, folks.
But this is what I'm worried about. This is what I'm really worried about. What I'm worried about is that there are people that I think they don't really believe in what we're talking about here. I don't think they really believe in God. I think they thought they were born a Christian because their mama was a Christian, and they just doing this because this is our culture to do this, and they don't really believe anything we're actually saying. So when you say, do you really not have sex with before you get married? Do you really not do all this crazy stuff? They don't really believe you're not doing it, because it's like, why? This ain't real. I really feel like they don't believe it's real.
You saying you believe it's Christians that feel like that?
People who say they're Christians that don't really believe that this is real. But they think they are. Am I wrong? No, I feel like this is happening.
Bad teaching, bro. Listen, I honestly, I tell y'all, and I say this, and I tell this to everybody. I'm not going to lie to you. My whole life changed when I start going to the white church. I'm just going to be real with you.
We've done a topic on that. There's a difference.
I'm just going to be real with you 100%. I've been at black church, and they can preach on your sins so much that when you leave, you texting all your chicks like, hey, guess what? Hey, don't hit me up no more, man. I can't do this, man. Yeah. I'm saying, whoop. Guess what? How long that lasts?
Till Wednesday. Number Tuesday.
Hey, bro, till you at the crib, bud. And you're like, God dang it, Bob, I want her to come through. Woo. Like, but guess what? When you go to the church, and guess what? They ain't mention your sin at all. But when they start touching on your very heart for God, when you leave that, it don't mean that you won't still make some of the same mistakes. It don't mean that you won't still fall sometimes. But now, like, you not comfortable with that thing.
Yeah.
And your very heart has been changed for God, not your sin.
So we're gonna end with this, because we came up with a topic that we haven't done yet, but it's coming, and this is gonna be a problem. are black people really Christians? And we gonna hit it because I think there's an issue. It's a hyperbole because you know
I think
like,
I am.
we
monologue's gonna have to come back.
Hold on. We talked about this in the Bible. Sometimes Jesus did hyperbole where he exaggerated some things to make a point. I'm doing that to make a point because I think a lot of black people think they're Christians because their grandma was a Christian, and I want to make sure we touch on that. And then we'll do the white people too. But I want to start with what we know.
And there's another reason too. There's another reason too. Because of our history, God played such a big part in our history, you know, of slavery. Now they all of a sudden feel grafted into this lineage of tradition
without the faith,
right? Without believing.
It's like a lot of Jews feel like they're Jews because their parents were Jews, not because they actually believe in God. Yeah. And I think that's starting to happen with Christians, where they feel like they're Christians just because their family were Christians and not because they actually decided to become a follower. And I think we gotta kill that.
Forced to go to church.
We gotta kill that. All right, man. Let's get back into it. You in the field with the Tracksstars. Ryan Righteous, Sean Tanner, DJ Jeremiah. Let's go.
Yo.